because today we are talking about the 1988 no-mint Mark Abraham Lincoln Memorial Penny, a coin so overlooked that millions of people have probably held one, and yet a tiny number of them could be worth life-changing money. So, before you spend another penny without thinking, you might want to stick around, because in this video, I am going to show you exactly why this coin is so valuable, what makes it rare, how to spot one, and how you might actually have one hiding somewhere in your house right now. And trust me, by the end of this video, you are going to look at every single penny very differently. The 1988 Lincoln penny is part of the Lincoln Memorial series, which ran from 1959 to 2008. On the front you have the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln, calm, serious, probably judging us for ignoring pennies all these years. On the back you have the Lincoln Memorial Building, a design many people grew up seeing without ever giving it a second thought. Now here is where things get interesting. Most 1988 pennies are very common. Billions were made, and if you have one in average condition, it is usually worth just 1 cent. Yes, 1 cent. Not exactly retirement money, and this is a very important, but there are rare variations and errors within this year. And those are the ones collectors go absolutely crazy for, especially the 1988 no-mint Mark penny with certain unique characteristics. So what does no-mint Mark even mean? Great question. Coins in the United States are usually made in different mints like Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Most coins from Denver have a D. Most coins from San Francisco have an San. Coins from Philadelphia often have no mint mark at all, especially during certain years. So a 1988 penny without a mint mark typically means it was minted in Philadelphia. That alone does not make it rare, but here is where things take a dramatic turn. There are certain 1988 pennies that have minting errors or design differences that make them incredibly valuable. One of the most talked about is the 1988 over 1987 transitional error. This is where the mint accidentally used a die from the previous year, so instead of just 1988, you can sometimes see traces of 1987 underneath the 1988, and collectors love this kind of mistake because it is not supposed to happen, and when something is not supposed to exist, it suddenly becomes extremely desirable. Now imagine these: a regular penny that should be worth 1 cent suddenly becomes worth thousands, tens of thousands, or even up to $1.9 million in pristine condition. That is not just a coin, that is a jackpot hiding in plain sight. Now let me tell you a quick story. A few years ago, I was cleaning out an old drawer at home. You know that one drawer where everything ends up: random keys, old receipts, a pen that never works, and of course, coins. I almost ignored it completely, but for some reason, I decided to go through the coins one by one. At first it felt boring, just a pile of pennies and nickels, but then I remembered something I had read about rare coins, so I slowed down, started checking dates, looking closely at each penny, and suddenly, it was not boring anymore. It felt like a treasure hunt. Now, I did not find $1 million coin that day. I wish I did. But that moment changed how I look at money forever, because I realized something powerful: value is not always obvious. Sometimes the most valuable things look completely ordinary, just like this 1988 penny. So how do you actually identify a valuable 1988 no-mint Mark penny? Let us break it down in a simple way. First, check the date carefully. Make sure it clearly says 1988. Then look very closely at the numbers. If you have a magnifying glass or even your phone camera, zoom. Use it. You are looking for any signs that the numbers might be layered or altered, especially around the number 8. If you see anything unusual, like extra lines or shapes underneath, that could be a sign of an error. Next, check the condition. Condition matters a lot in coin collecting. A coin that looks brand new, with sharp details and no scratches, is always going to be worth more than one that is worn out. Collectors call this mint state, and the closer your coin is to mint state, the higher its potential value. Now here is something many people overlook. Even if your coin is not perfect, it can still be valuable if it has a rare error, so do not throw it away just because it looks a little old. Sometimes the imperfections are exactly what make it special. Let us talk about value, because I know that is what you are really curious about. A regular 1988 penny with no special features is worth 1 cent, maybe a few cents if it is in excellent condition, but a rare error version, especially one in near perfect condition, can reach incredible prices. Some collectors are willing to pay thousands, even hundreds of thousands, depending on rarity and demand, and in extreme cases, coins with unique characteristics and perfect grading have been valued as high as $1.9 million. Now let me be very real with you. Not every 1988 penny is worth millions. In fact, most are not, but the possibility exists, and that is what makes this so exciting, because unlike expensive investments, you do not need to buy anything. You just need to look at what you already have. Now let us talk strategy. If you want to increase your chances of finding valuable coins, here are a few simple tips. Start saving your pennies. Yes, all of them, instead of spending them. Put them in a jar. Over time you will build a collection to search through. Second, learn what to look for: dates, errors, mint marks. These are your clues. The more you learn, the better your chances. Third, be patient. Treasure hunting takes time. You might go through hundreds, even thousands of coins before finding something valuable, but when you do, it is worth it. Fourth, consider getting your coin evaluated. If you think you have something special, you can send it to a professional grading service. They will examine it, confirm its authenticity, and give it a grade. This can significantly increase its value and credibility. Now let me ask you something. When was the last time you actually looked at a penny? Not just glanced at it, but really looked at it. Most of us treat pennies like they are worthless. We leave them on counters, drop them in random places, or ignore them completely. But what if one of those pennies could change your life? What if the next time you open your wallet, you are holding a hidden treasure? That is the mindset shift this hobby brings. It turns everyday moments into opportunities. It makes you curious, observant, and just a little bit excited every time you find spare change. And let us be honest, it is also kind of fun. There is something strangely satisfying about checking coins. It is like a mini adventure, right in your own home. No travel required, no expensive equipment, just your eyes, your curiosity, and maybe a cup of tea or coffee on the side. The 1988 no mint mark Abraham Lincoln Memorial penny might look ordinary, but under the right conditions, it can be extraordinarily valuable. From simple pocket change to a potential $1.9 million treasure, it all comes down to knowing what to look for. We are diving deep into one of the most talked about coins in the collecting world, the 1984 D mint mark Abraham Lincoln Memorial penny, and why people believe it could be worth a fortune. Now, before you laugh and say, "No way, a penny is just a penny," let me stop you right there, because the coin world is full of surprises, and some of the biggest treasures ever found were hiding in plain sight inside everyday pocket change. So today we are going on a fun journey together. We are going to explore the story, the mystery, the value, and the hype behind this penny. And I promise you, this is going to feel like a mix of treasure hunt comedy and eye-opening education. So grab your coffee or tea, sit back, and let us turn something as simple as a penny into a potentially life-changing discovery. This coin was minted in Denver in the year 1984. The D mint mark stands for Denver Mint, and millions upon millions of these coins were produced, which is exactly why most people assume it has no value beyond 1 cent. But here is where things get interesting, because not all pennies are created equal, and even coins made in huge numbers can sometimes contain rare errors, varieties, or unique conditions that make them extremely valuable. Now, the regular 1984 D penny is common. You can still find them in circulation today, but collectors are not looking for the ordinary ones. They are hunting for the extraordinary versions, the rare mistakes, the unusual strikes, and the high-grade coins that survive decades without damage. So what makes people say this coin could be worth up to $1.1 million? Let us break it down in a simple way. First, we have minting errors. Minting errors are mistakes made during the production of coins, and these mistakes can turn an ordinary coin into a rare collectible. Some examples include double die errors, where the design appears slightly doubled off center, strikes where the coin design is not properly aligned, or unusual metal variations where the coin was struck on the wrong type of planchet. If a 1984 penny were to show a dramatic and verified mint error in perfect condition, it could become extremely valuable, especially if it is unique or extremely rare in the market. Second, we have condition. Condition is everything in coin collecting. A coin that looks like it just came off the minting press, even after 40 years, can be worth dramatically more than a worn, scratched, or dirty version. Grading companies evaluate coins on a scale, and the highest grades can multiply value many times over. Imagine finding a 1984 penny that somehow stayed in flawless condition for decades. No scratches, no original shine. That alone could make collectors compete for it. Third, we have demand and hype. Sometimes value is not just about rarity, but also about demand. When collectors start talking about a coin online, on YouTube, social media, or forums, hype builds up, and suddenly everyone starts searching for it. That increased attention can push prices higher, especially for rare coins or high-grade specimens. Now let us pause for a funny real-life moment, because I want to make this story relatable. I remember once going through an old jar of coins at a small roadside tea shop. Yes, you heard that right. I was sitting there sipping tea, thinking nothing of it, and the shop owner told me, "You can keep whatever you find in the jar." I laughed and started sorting through it like a kid on a treasure hunt. I found coins from different years, even some foreign ones, but of course nothing life-changing, or so I thought. Later, I showed one of those coins to a friend who was into collecting, and he said something that stuck with me forever. He said, "Most people do not get rich because they do not look closely enough at small things." That line changed how I see coins forever. Now back to our penny. Let us talk about how you can actually identify something potentially valuable in a 1984 penny. First, check the date clearly. It should read 1984. Second, look for the D mint mark under the date. Third, examine the coin closely under good light. Look for anything unusual, such as doubling on the letters or numbers, off-center printing, or unusual color compared to normal copper pennies. Fourth, check the condition. If it looks uncirculated, shiny, and clean, that is a good sign. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Even if I find something different, how do I know if it is really worth money? That is where professional grading comes in. Companies that specialize in coin authentication can evaluate your coin and assign it a grade which can dramatically affect its market value. And here is something very important to understand: not every old penny is valuable, but every valuable penny was once just an ordinary looking coin. Let us talk about the market reality. Most 1984 pennies in normal condition are still worth 1 cent to a few cents depending on condition, but rare error versions or high-grade certified coins can fetch significantly higher prices. And in extremely rare hypothetical cases where a unique mint error exists combined with perfect condition, collectors may assign extremely high valuations, especially in auction hype situations. This is why you sometimes see shocking headlines about pennies worth thousands or even millions of dollars. It is not the everyday coin, it is the rare exception that creates the story. Now let us go deeper into why people love Lincoln pennies so much. The Abraham Lincoln Memorial Penny Series is one of the most collected coin series in the world because it connects history, art, and everyday life. It has been in circulation for decades, and almost everyone in America has held one at some point, which makes the hunt even more exciting because the treasure might already be in your pocket. There is also something emotional about it. People love the idea that something so small and overlooked could hold hidden value. It feels like finding secret wealth in plain sight. Now let us talk strategy. If you are serious about coin hunting, here are some friendly Tips: always keep a small magnifying glass or use your phone camera zoom. Never rush through coins. Take your time. Slow searching increases your chances of spotting errors. Learn common error types so you know what to look for. Store interesting coins safely. Do not damage them with scratches or cleaning products. And most importantly, enjoy the process, because sometimes the thrill of the hunt is more valuable than the coin itself. A friend of mine once ignored a small box of coins for years. He thought it was just junk. Later, during a cleaning day, he almost threw it away, but something made him check inside. And guess what he found? A handful of old pennies, some in surprisingly good condition. He did not become a millionaire, but he did sell a few for a decent amount, and more importantly, he got hooked on coin collecting as a hobby. That is the magic of this world. You never know what you are going to find. Now, coming back to our 1984 D penny, is it really worth $1.1 million? The honest answer is most are not, but certain rare error examples in perfect condition or unique discovery cases can create extremely high valuations in the collector market, especially when competition among buyers increases. So instead of thinking every penny is a jackpot, think of it as a possibility game. Every coin is a small mystery waiting to be solved. The 1984 D. Abraham Lincoln Memorial penny might look simple, ordinary, and even boring at first glance, but in the world of coin collecting, nothing is ever truly ordinary until you look closely. It teaches us a powerful lesson. Sometimes value is hidden in plain sight, and the smallest things in life can hold the biggest surprises if we are willing to pay attention. Now, I want you to do something fun after watching this video. Go check your pockets, your drawers, your old jars, and start looking. You never know what history might be sitting right in front of you waiting to be discovered. And if you enjoyed this journey into the world of rare coins and hidden treasures, make sure you subscribe, because I will be bringing you more stories, more secrets, and more coins that could change the way you look at everyday money forever. Yes, we are talking about the 2007 D Mint Mark Abraham Lincoln Memorial penny. And before you laugh or think it is just another penny video, let me stop you right there, because this tiny copper-colored coin has been making waves among collectors and rumor hunters, claiming values as high as $1.11 million in rare perfect condition error situations. Now, I know what you are thinking. How can something that barely buys a piece of gum possibly be worth more than a luxury house or a brand new sports car? Well, that is exactly what we are going to break down today in simple, friendly language, with a little humor, a few real-world stories, and some eye-opening facts that might make you want to check every penny you come across from now on. So whether you are a serious coin collector, a casual treasure hunter, or just someone who empties their pockets on the table at night, this video might completely change the way you look at spare change forever. And stick around, because later I will share a personal story about a moment when I almost spent a coin that I later realized could have been something special. And trust me, that moment still haunts me a little. This coin was minted in Denver and carries the D Mint mark, which you can usually find just below the year on the front side of the coin near Lincoln's portrait. Most of these coins are extremely common, and millions were produced for everyday circulation, which is exactly why most people would never think twice about them. You see, the United States Mint produced billions of Lincoln pennies over the years, and by 2007 the penny was already considered one of the most widely used coins in circulation. But here is where things get interesting, and where collectors start paying very close attention. Not all pennies are created equal. Some coins leave the mint with tiny mistakes, some are struck differently, some use the wrong metal composition, and some end up with rare doubling errors or die cracks that make them extremely valuable. Now, when it comes to the 2007 D Lincoln penny, there are rumors and documented cases of rare error varieties that can dramatically increase value when certain conditions are met. We are talking about things like double die errors, where the design appears slightly duplicated due to a minting misalignment. We are talking about off-center strikes, where the design is not properly centered on the coin. We are also talking about extremely high-grade mint state examples that have never been circulated and are graded at the highest levels by professional grading companies now combine rarity condition and collector demand, and suddenly a 1-cent coin can become something far more valuable than anyone would expect. This is where the $1,000,000 claim comes into the conversation. Some listings and collector discussions have suggested that a perfect condition rare error version of the 2007 Lincoln penny could theoretically reach extremely high valuations in the right market conditions, especially if multiple rare characteristics are combined in a single specimen. Now let me be very honest with you here, because honesty is important in the coin world. Not every 2007 penny is worth a fortune. In fact, most are still worth exactly 1 cent, but the reason this coin gets attention is because of what it represents: the possibility that something ordinary in your hand might actually be extraordinary under the right circumstances. Now let us talk about how you can actually check your 2007 penny like a pro without needing expensive equipment. First, grab a simple magnifying glass, or even use your phone camera zoom feature. Look closely at Lincoln's face, especially around the eyes and beard area. If you see any doubling effect where the image looks slightly shadowed or duplicated, that could indicate a potential double die error. Next, check the edges and lettering. Look at the words United States of America and 1 cent. If the letters look uneven, misaligned, or unusually thick, that could also signal a minting error. Now, flip the coin and look at the memorial building on the reverse side. Pay attention to the columns and steps. Collectors love coins where architectural details show abnormalities, because those are often where rare die issues show up. Another thing to check is the coin surface itself. If your penny looks unusually shiny, even after being in circulation, or has a mirror-like finish, it could indicate a special mint state condition or even a proof like strike, which is uncommon for circulation coins. Now let us take a quick break from the technical side, and I want to tell you something funny that happened to me personally a few years ago. I was going through a jar of coins that I had completely forgotten about. You know the kind of jar I am talking about, the dusty one sitting in the corner that collects everything from pennies to foreign coins to random buttons and screws that somehow always end up there. So I was sorting through it, half distracted, watching a video on my phone, and I almost dumped the whole thing into a bank coin machine without thinking twice. But something made me pause. One penny looked slightly different. It had a sharper shine than the others, and for some reason I decided to look at it under a light. At the time, I did not find anything crazy valuable, but that moment taught me something very important. Most people miss potential treasure not because it is not there, but because they never stop to look closely enough. You never know what is sitting in your pocket right now. Now let us talk about grading, because this is where values can skyrocket. Professional coin grading services evaluate coins based on condition from poor all the way up to perfect mint state. A coin graded at MS60 might be worth only slightly above face value, but a coin graded MS68 or MS69 in perfect condition can multiply in value many times over. If a rare error is also present, the value can increase exponentially. That is how certain coins reach headline-grabbing numbers that sound unbelievable at first, but again, and I want to repeat this clearly, most coins will not fall into that category. Still, the possibility is what keeps collectors searching. Now let us talk about why people are so obsessed with Lincoln pennies in general. The Lincoln penny has been in circulation since 1909, and over the decades it has gone through multiple design and metal changes. Because of this long history, there are countless variations and errors floating around in circulation. Some are extremely rare, some are moderately valuable, and some are basically modern myths, but the excitement remains the same every time someone finds a penny that looks slightly different. It feels like winning a tiny lottery. Now imagine multiplying the feeling by a $1 million possibility. That is why videos like this exist, and why people around the world still check their change every single day. Let us go deeper into specific features that could increase the value of a 2007 Lincoln penny. One major factor is strike quality coins that are weakly struck or have missing details due to mint pressure issues can sometimes become collectible if the error is dramatic enough. Another factor is planchet errors, which happen when the metal disc used to make the coin has imperfections before it is even struck. You might see discoloration, odd textures, or unusual weight differences. Then there are die cracks, which appear like small raised lines on the coin surface and happen when the minting die starts to wear out. All of these small imperfections might look like flaws to the average person, but to collectors, they can mean value. Now let us bring things back to reality for a moment. If you find a 2007 penny, do not automatically assume you are rich. The first step is always verification. Compare your coin with verified images online, or better yet, take it to a professional coin dealer or grading service. Sometimes what looks like an error is actually just wear and tear from circulation, but sometimes, just sometimes, it is something special. Now, I want to share another quick relatable moment. I remember talking to a friend who used to throw all his pennies into a jar and never thought twice about them. One day I told him to check them carefully just for fun. He laughed and said, "There is no way a penny could be worth anything serious." A week later, he found a coin with a noticeable mint error, and although it was not worth millions, it sold for over $100. His reaction was priceless. He could not believe that something he ignored for years actually had value. In that is the mindset shift I want you to have after watching this video. Do not underestimate small things, because sometimes small things carry surprising value. Now, before we move to the conclusion, let us quickly summarize what makes the 2007 Lincoln penny interesting. It is common, but can contain rare errors. It is widely circulated, but can exist in high-grade condition. It looks ordinary, but can become extraordinary under the right circumstances. The 2007 Abraham Lincoln Memorial Penny might look like just another coin in your pocket, but in the world of coin collecting, nothing is ever just what it seems. Today, we are diving into one of the most exciting and surprising stories in the world of coin collecting, the 1969 no-mint mark Abraham Lincoln Memorial Penny, and why some collectors believe it can reach a value of $1,130,000 in the right condition. Imagine holding a simple penny in your hand and discovering it could change your entire life overnight. This is not just a story about money, it is a story about mystery, excitement, history, and the thrill of searching through everyday pocket change. And before you think this is just another coin story, let me tell you something interesting. Many life-changing discoveries have come from coins that look completely ordinary at first glance. So stay with me, because what you learn today might make you look at every penny in your pocket very differently. Let us first talk about what makes the 1969 no-mint mark Lincoln penny so special. Most pennies from this time period were produced in huge numbers and came from different mint locations like Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco, but the no-mint mark version is what creates curiosity among collectors because it usually indicates Philadelphia production. Now, here is where things start getting interesting. In rare situations, certain error coins or special variations can slip through production unnoticed and enter circulation. These rare coins become highly valuable because collectors around the world compete to own them. The 1969 Lincoln penny has been known in the collecting world for possible rare variations and striking anomalies that make people pay extreme attention to detail. Now imagine yourself as a young collector sitting at a kitchen table with a pile of coins in front of you. You are not rich, you are not famous, you are just curious. You start checking each coin slowly, one by one. At first it feels boring, but then suddenly one coin looks slightly different. It feels heavier, or the shine looks unusual. That is the moment every coin hunter dreams about. Now let me share a relatable story from my own experience. I remember one time I was going through an old jar of coins that belonged to my family. It was dusty and full of pennies, nickels, and old change that had been sitting there for years. At first, I was just doing it for fun, but after a few minutes, I started noticing small differences between coins that I had never paid attention to before. One coin looked slightly off in color, another had sharper details than the rest, and for a brief moment I actually thought I had found something valuable. My heart was racing like I had just won a prize. Of course, later, I realized it was not $1 million coin, but the excitement was unforgettable, and that is exactly what makes coin collecting so addictive. It is not just about value, it is about discovery. Now, coming back to the 1969 Lincoln penny, collectors look for several important factors when evaluating value. Condition is extremely important. A coin that looks brand new with no scratches or wear can be worth far more than a worn-out version. Another factor is rarity. If a coin has an unusual production error or limited existence, it can become highly sought after. And finally, demand plays a huge role. If collectors around the world are actively searching for a specific coin, the price can rise dramatically. This is where stories of high-value coins, like the $1,130,000 estimate, come from. It is not just about the metal, it is about the story behind the coin. Now imagine the excitement of finding such a penny in everyday circulation. You could receive it as change from a store, buy it in a random collection, or even find it inside an old piggy bank. That is why collectors always say never ignore your pocket change. Now let us talk about what makes people so excited about no-mint mark pennies in general. Many beginners assume that mint marks are just small letters on coins that do not matter, but in reality, they can tell a very important story about where and how a coin was produced. A missing or unusual mint mark can sometimes indicate an error or special production situation, and in the world of coin collecting, errors often equal value. The more unusual the coin, the more attention it gets from serious collectors. Now let us slow down for a moment and think about something funny. Imagine you are at a grocery store buying snacks. You pay with cash, and the cashier gives you change. You grab your coins without thinking and walk away. But what if that one penny in your hand was actually worth more than the car you drove to the store? That is the kind of situation that makes coin collectors laugh and panic at the same time, because most valuable coins are not found in museums or vaults. They are found in everyday places, in jars, drawers, old wallets, and sometimes even in couch cushions. Yes, even the couch. Now let us talk about how to properly examine a 1969 Lincoln penny. If you ever come across one, first look closely at the date. Make sure it clearly shows 1969. Next, check the surface of the coin. Look for unusual markings, doubling, or strange patterns. Then observe the color and shine. Older coins that have been preserved well often have a unique look compared to heavily circulated ones. Finally, pay attention to overall condition. The fewer scratches and marks, the better. Now, here is an important mindset tip for collectors. Patience is everything. Most people give up too early because they expect instant results, but real collectors know that treasure hunting takes time. Sometimes you go through hundreds or even thousands of coins before finding something interesting, but that one discovery can make it all worth it. Now imagine the emotional reaction of finding a coin worth over $1 million. You would probably drop it immediately, then pick it up again slowly like it might disappear. Your mind would not believe it at first, and you would probably check it 10 more times just to be sure. That moment of shock and disbelief is what keeps collectors searching, because every coin tells a story. Some tell ordinary stories, but a few tell extraordinary ones, and those are the coins that change lives. So now you know the mystery, excitement, and potential value behind the 1969 no-mint mark Lincoln penny. It is more than just a piece of copper. It represents possibility, curiosity, and the chance that something ordinary could turn into something extraordinary. Before you leave today, I want you to remember something important. Every coin in your pocket has a history, and maybe even a hidden secret waiting to be discovered. You are digging through a jar of old coins sitting on a dusty shelf, maybe in your kitchen, maybe in your grandparents' house, maybe even that random drawer everyone has that nobody organizes. And suddenly you spot a simple penny, nothing shiny, nothing special at first glance, just a regular 1981 Lincoln penny. But what if I told you that this exact coin could be worth up to $1.1 million? Sounds crazy, right? Well, stay with me, because today we are diving deep into the fascinating story of The 1981 no-mint mark Abraham Lincoln Memorial penny, a coin that looks ordinary, but could secretly be a life-changing treasure hiding in plain sight. And trust me, by the end of this video, you are going to want to check every single penny you own. Introduction: let me ask you something. When was the last time you actually looked closely at a penny? Be honest, most of us treat pennies like they are almost worthless. We toss them in jars, we leave them in cars, we ignore them at checkout counters like they are not even real money anymore. I used to be exactly the same way. In fact, I remember one day I was cleaning out my car, and I found a handful of pennies stuck in the cup holder covered in dust and old coffee stains, and I almost threw them away, but something made me pause. I started looking at the dates and the details, and that was the moment everything changed for me, because that simple habit of checking coins opened the door to a world where ordinary people find extraordinary treasures. And today we are talking about one of those possibilities, the 1981 no-mint mark Lincoln penny. First, let us understand what this coin actually is. The 1981 Lincoln penny is part of the Lincoln Memorial series, which was produced from 1959 to 2008 and features the iconic portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the front and the Lincoln Memorial on the back. Now, when we say no-mint mark, it means the coin was minted in Philadelphia, because during that time Philadelphia coins often did not carry a mint mark. So at first glance that might not sound rare at all, because millions of these coins were produced. And you would be right, most 1981 pennies are only worth 1 cent, maybe a few cents more depending on condition. But here is where things get interesting. Not all pennies are created equal. Some of these coins have rare errors, unique features, or exceptional conditions that can push their value into the thousands or even hundreds of thousands, and in extremely rare cases the value can reach up to $1.1 million. Now, before you run to your coin jar and start celebrating, let me explain exactly what makes a 1981 no-mint mark penny so valuable. One of the biggest factors is condition. Coins are graded on a scale, and the highest grades are known as mint state coins. These are coins that look almost perfect with no scratches and full original shine. Finding a 1981 penny in that kind of condition is incredibly rare, because most of them have been in circulation for decades. Another major factor is errors. This is where things get really exciting. Error coins are mistakes made during the minting process, and collectors absolutely love them because they are unique. Some of the most valuable errors include double die errors, where the design appears slightly doubled off center, strikes where the coin design is not properly aligned, and planchet errors, where the coin was struck on the wrong type of metal. Imagine holding a coin that was never supposed to exist exactly the way it does. That is what makes error coins so special. Now let me tell you a quick story that still blows my mind. A friend of mine who was just getting into coin collecting once found a small box of old coins at a garage sale. He paid almost nothing for it, maybe the price of a cup of tea. He did not expect much, but later that night, he started going through the coins one by one, and guess what? He found a penny with a noticeable doubling in the lettering. At first, he thought it was just damage, but after doing some research, he realized it could be a double die error. He sent it in for grading, and when the results came back, the coin was worth thousands of dollars. Now imagine if that had been one of the rare high-value 1981 error pennies. That is the kind of hidden opportunity we are talking about here. So how do you check your 1981 penny? First, look at the date. Make sure it says 1981. Then check for a mint mark. If there is no letter under the date, that means it was minted in Philadelphia. Next, examine the coin closely. Look for any unusual features, doubling in the letters or numbers, strange shapes, or anything that looks different from a normal coin. You might need a magnifying glass or even a simple phone camera zoom to really see the details. Also pay attention to the color and shine. Coins that have been preserved well without much wear are always more valuable, and if you think you have something special, do not clean the coin. I cannot stress this enough. Cleaning a coin can actually reduce its value significantly, because collectors prefer coins in their original condition. Even if they look a bit dirty, instead keep it safe and consider getting it professionally evaluated. Now let us talk about the million-dollar question. Is every 1981 no-mint mark penny worth $1.1 million? No, and it is important to be realistic here. The million-dollar value is based on extremely rare examples with unique characteristics and near-perfect condition. But even if your coin is not worth millions, it could still be worth much more than 1 cent. Some rare variations and error coins have sold for hundreds or thousands of dollars, and that is still an incredible return for something you might find in your pocket change. Think about it, you could literally be carrying a valuable collectible without even knowing it. That is what makes coin collecting so exciting. It is like a treasure hunt that anyone can participate in. You do not need expensive equipment. You do not need years of experience. All you need is curiosity and a willingness to look a little closer, and the best part is the thrill of discovery. There is nothing quite like the moment when you realize that something ordinary might actually be extraordinary. The 1981 no-mint mark Abraham Lincoln Memorial penny may look like just another coin, but under the right conditions it can be worth a life-changing amount of money. Whether it is a rare error, a perfect condition specimen, or just a unique piece of history, every coin has a story, and some of those stories are worth a fortune. Have you ever checked your pocket change and wondered if you were holding a tiny piece of hidden treasure? Imagine grabbing a simple penny from your wallet and discovering it could be worth more than a luxury house. Sounds crazy, right? Well, today we are diving into one of the most talked about modern coins, the 2023 D-Mint mark Abraham Lincoln Memorial penny, that some collectors claim could reach values as high as $1.2 million in the right condition and with the right rare features. Now, before you laugh and toss your spare change aside, stick with me, because this story is part treasure hunt, part history lesson, and part real-life adventure. And by the end of this video, you might just look at pennies in a completely different way. Let me take you back to a moment that changed how I see coins forever. I was at a small grocery store just grabbing snacks, nothing special. The cashier handed me a few coins, including a penny that looked slightly different. It had a sharper shine, and the details just popped more than usual. I almost ignored it, but something told me to keep it. Later that night, I looked it up, and while it was not worth millions, it was worth way more than 1 cent. That tiny moment sparked a curiosity that has never left me, and today I want to pass that curiosity on to you. So let us talk about the star of this video, the 2023 D-Mint mark Lincoln penny. First things first, what does that D even mean? The D stands for Denver Mint, which is one of the main facilities in the United States responsible for producing coins. Coins with this mint mark are not automatically rare, but sometimes specific batches or errors from this mint can become incredibly valuable. Now here is where things get interesting. The 2023 Lincoln penny continues the long legacy of honoring Abraham Lincoln, one of the most iconic figures in American history, while the reverse design today is actually the Union Shield rather than the old memorial design. Many collectors still refer to these as memorial pennies out of habit or nostalgia, and that alone creates confusion, which can sometimes lead to overlooked treasures. The value of a coin like this depends on a few key factors: condition, rarity, errors, and demand. Let us break these down in simple terms. Condition is everything in the coin world. A penny that looks like it just came out of the mint, with no scratches, no wear, and full original shine, can be worth hundreds or even thousands of times more than a worn-out one. Collectors call this mint state condition, and the higher the grade, the more valuable the coin becomes. Now imagine a 2023 D penny that has been perfectly preserved, no fingerprints, no damage, and full luster. That is already a strong starting point. But what pushes a coin into the unbelievable price range, like $1.2 million, is usually something extra, something unusual, something rare. This is where minting errors come into play. Errors are like the secret sauce of coin collecting. They happen when something goes wrong during the minting process, And instead of being destroyed, a few of these flawed coins slip into circulation. These mistakes can include double strikes, off-center designs, missing details, or even wrong metal compositions. Picture this: a penny where the design is slightly doubled, making the text look shadowed or blurred. That is called a double die error, and collectors go absolutely crazy for these because they are rare and visually fascinating. Another example is an off-center strike where the coin design is not perfectly aligned. It might look like part of the penny is missing or shifted. These coins stand out immediately and can fetch serious money. Then there are planchet errors where the metal blank itself is flawed. Maybe it is the wrong size or made from the wrong material. These are extremely rare, and when combined with a modern coin like a 2023 penny, they become even more exciting to collectors. Now let us talk about the big number. The $1.2 million value. Is every 2023 penny worth that amount? Absolutely not, not even close. But under extremely rare circumstances, such as a unique error combined with perfect condition and high demand at auction, a coin could reach astonishing prices. Think of it like this: not every painting is worth millions, but a rare masterpiece with a unique story can sell for unbelievable amounts. The same idea applies here. What makes modern coins like the 2023 penny so exciting is that they are still out there. You do not need to dig through ancient ruins or buy expensive collections. You might literally find one in your pocket, your car cup holder, or the jar of coins sitting in your kitchen. And here is a fun little exercise: next time you get change, do not just toss it aside. Take a moment to look closely, check the date, check the mint mark, and pay attention to anything that looks unusual. It might feel silly at first, but this simple habit could lead to an incredible discovery. I remember another time when I was going through a pile of coins with a friend. We were joking around, saying we were on a treasure hunt. Suddenly, he picked up a penny and said, "This looks weird. It had a strange edge, and the color was slightly off." We did some research and found out it was a minor error coin, not worth millions, but still worth a nice dinner. That moment turned a boring afternoon into an unforgettable experience. Now let us get a bit more practical. How can you tell if your 2023 penny is special? Start with a visual inspection. Look for anything unusual: doubling, misalignment, strange colors, or missing details. Use a magnifying glass if you have one, because some errors are very subtle. Next, consider the condition. If your coin looks brand new, you might have something worth holding on to. Avoid cleaning it, because cleaning can actually reduce its value. Collectors prefer coins in their original state, even if they have minor imperfections. If you think you have something special, the next step is to get it evaluated. Professional grading services can examine your coin and give it an official grade and authentication. This adds credibility and can significantly increase its market value. And yes, there are stories of people finding valuable coins by accident. One person found a rare penny in a roll from the bank. Another discovered an error coin in loose change from a vending machine. These stories might sound rare, but they happen more often than you think. Now let us address the elephant in the room. Why would anyone pay $1.2 million for a penny? The answer lies in rarity, history, and demand. Collectors are passionate people, and when a coin checks all the boxes — rare, unique, high grade, and historically interesting — it becomes more than just money. It becomes a piece of art, a conversation starter, and a symbol of discovery. Think about it: owning a one-of-a-kind coin is like holding a piece of history that no one else has. It is exclusive, and that exclusivity drives value. As we move forward into a digital world where physical cash is becoming less common, coins like the 2023 penny might become even more interesting to collectors in the future. What seems ordinary today could be extraordinary tomorrow. So here is the big takeaway: do not underestimate the power of small things. That penny in your pocket might not just be spare change. It could be the beginning of a story, a hobby, or even a life-changing discovery. And if nothing else, coin collecting is a fun and rewarding way to learn about history, art, and economics. It teaches patience, attention to detail, and the thrill of the hunt. Now imagine this scenario: you are cleaning your room and you find an old jar filled with coins. You decide to take a closer look, and among them is a 2023 penny with a strange double image. You get it checked, and it turns out to be a rare error. Suddenly, the jar of coins becomes one of the most exciting things you own. Sounds like a dream, right? But every big discovery starts with a small moment of curiosity. As we wrap up this video, I want to leave you with a simple challenge. The next time you receive change, do not ignore it. Take a closer look. You never know what you might find. If you enjoyed this journey into the world of rare pennies and hidden treasures, make sure to subscribe to the channel for more tips, tricks, and fascinating stories about coins worth serious money. There is a whole world of hidden value out there, and you do not want to miss it. Drop a comment below and tell me, have you ever found a coin that looked unusual or valuable? I would love to hear your story. Imagine reaching into your pocket, pulling out a simple penny, and realizing that tiny coin could be worth more than a luxury house. Sounds crazy, right? Well, today we are diving into one of those unbelievable stories that has collectors checking every jar, every couch cushion, and every handful of loose change. We are talking about the 1982 mint Mark Abraham Lincoln Memorial Penny, a coin that looks ordinary, but under the right conditions could be worth up to $1.3 million. Now, before you roll your eyes and say, yeah, another internet coin myth, stick with me, because this one has some fascinating twists, real collector demand, and a few secrets that most people completely overlook. By the end of this video, you might actually look at pennies very differently. Let me take you back for a moment. Picture this. A few years ago, I was cleaning out an old drawer at home. You know, the drawer everyone has, full of random stuff like old batteries, receipts, maybe a screwdriver that doesn't even belong there. At the bottom, I found a handful of pennies. Dusty, scratched, nothing special. I almost tossed them back without looking. But something told me to take a closer look. And that tiny moment of curiosity changed everything about how I see coins. That is exactly what this video is about. Opportunity hiding in plain sight. So let us break this down in a simple, friendly way. The 1982 Lincoln penny is actually one of the most interesting coins ever made in the United States. Why? Because 1982 was a transition year. The U.S. Mint changed the composition of pennies from mostly copper to zinc. That means there are multiple versions of the 1982 penny floating around, and some are far rarer than others. Now here is where it gets exciting. The Denver Mint, marked by the letter D on the coin, produced several variations. But among those, certain rare combinations and errors have turned ordinary pennies into collector gold mines. Let us talk about the basics first, so you know exactly what to look for. The 1982 penny comes in two main compositions. One is copper, and the other is zinc. The copper version weighs about 3.1 grams, while the zinc version weighs about 2.5 grams. That difference might not sound like much, but it is everything in the coin world. Now imagine this. What if a coin was struck with the wrong metal? What if a rare variation slipped through the cracks at the mint? That is exactly the kind of mistake collectors dream about. One of the most famous and valuable versions is the 1982 small date copper penny. Let me say that again, because this is important. Small date, copper, Denver Mint. That combination is incredibly rare, and for years collectors searched for it, thinking it might not even exist. Then one showed up. And when it did, it shocked the entire coin collecting world. The idea that a simple penny could be worth hundreds of thousands, or even over $1 million, suddenly became very real. Now let us talk about value. You might be wondering, how does a 1-cent coin jump to $1.3 million? The answer is rarity, condition, and demand. If a coin is extremely rare and in near perfect condition, collectors are willing to pay unbelievable amounts to own it. It becomes more than just money. It becomes history, a trophy, a once-in-a-lifetime fine condition plays a huge role here. A worn-out penny with scratches and damage will not fetch big money, even if it is rare. But a coin that looks almost untouched, with sharp details and original shine, that is where the magic happens. This is where grading comes in. Professional grading services examine coins under magnification and assign them a grade. The higher the grade, the more valuable the coin. A top-grade example of a rare 1982 penny could easily reach life-changing money levels. Now let us make this practical. How do you actually check if you have one of these hidden treasures? First, look for the D mint mark under the date. That tells you it was made in Denver. Next, examine the date carefully. The small date version has thinner numbers and a more delicate appearance compared to the large date. Then comes the weight test. If you have a small digital scale, weigh the coin. Around 3.1 grams means copper. Around 2.5 grams means zinc. That simple step can instantly narrow down what you are dealing with. And yes, I know what you are thinking. Do I really need a scale for this? Well, let me tell you. Spending a few dollars on a scale could potentially lead to $1 million discovery. That is probably the best return on investment you will ever hear about. Now here is something funny. After I learned all this, I became that person who checks every single penny. Grocery store change, coins on the street, even friends started handing me their pennies like, here, you check this one. It became a bit of a running joke. But you know what? Nobody laughs if you actually find one, and that is the beauty of coin collecting. It turns everyday life into a treasure hunt. Let us talk about errors, because this is where things get even more interesting. Minting errors can happen in many ways. Double strikes, off-center designs, wrong planchets. These mistakes are not supposed to happen, but when they do, they create unique coins that collectors love. A 1982 penny with a major mint error could be worth thousands or even hundreds of thousands depending on the type and severity of the error. Combine that with the right composition and date style, and you have something truly special. Another thing to keep in mind is authenticity. If you think you have a rare coin, do not rush to sell it immediately. Get it checked by a professional. There are many experts and grading companies that can confirm whether your coin is genuine and give you an accurate value. Unfortunately, the coin world also has its share of fakes and exaggerations. Not every 1982 penny is worth a fortune. In fact, most are still worth just 1 cent. But the rare ones are out there, and that is what makes this so exciting. Let me share a quick story. A collector once found a rare penny in a roll of coins from the bank. Just a normal roll, nothing special. Inside was a coin that turned out to be extremely rare. That one moment turned a routine bank visit into a life-changing event. Stories like that are not common, but they are real. So what should you do after watching this video? Start small. Gather your coins. Look through your change. Learn the basics. Focus on key details like mint marks, dates, and weight. Over time, your eye will get sharper, and you will start noticing things most people miss. And here is a little secret. The thrill is not just about the money. Yes, finding a valuable coin would be amazing. But the real joy comes from the hunt, the learning, and those moments of discovery when you realize you might be holding something special. Now imagine this. You are sitting at home, casually going through a jar of coins. You pick up a penny, check the date, see the D mint mark, notice the small date, weigh it, and your heart starts racing. Could this be it? Could this be the one? That feeling alone is priceless. Before we wrap up, let us quickly recap the key points, so you do not miss anything important. The 1982 Lincoln penny is special because of the transition from copper to zinc. The rare and valuable version is the small date copper coin. Weight is your best friend when identifying it. condition, and grading determine the final value. And mint errors can add even more value, so do not ignore those pennies. They might look small, but they carry big possibilities. Now, as we come to the end of this journey, I want to leave you with one simple thought. Treasure does not always come in gold bars or shiny diamonds. Sometimes it is hiding in the most ordinary places, waiting for someone curious enough to notice it. If you enjoyed this video and want to learn more about coins that could be worth serious money, make sure you hit that subscribe button. There are countless hidden gems out there, and I will be here to help you find them one coin at a time. Imagine reaching into your pocket, pulling out a simple penny, and realizing it could be worth more than a luxury car, more than a house, maybe even more than everything sitting in your bank account right now. Sounds crazy, right? But stay with me, because today we are diving deep into a coin that might just change the way you look at every single penny you come across, the 2013 no-mint Mark Abraham Lincoln penny. And yes, some versions of this coin have been talked about with values climbing as high as $1.4 million in top condition and rare error forms. Now, before you laugh and say no way, a penny is just a penny, I want you to think about this. How many times have you ignored loose change? How many times have you dropped a penny and just kept walking? What if one of those moments cost you a life-changing discovery? Today, we are going to break it all down in a way that is simple, fun, and honestly a little mind-blowing. So grab your coffee, grab that jar of coins you have sitting somewhere in your house, and let us begin. Let us start with the basics. The 2013 Lincoln penny is part of the Lincoln Shield series, which replaced the older Lincoln Memorial design that had been around since 1959. Now, the front of the coin still features the familiar face of Abraham Lincoln, the same portrait that has been used since 1909, but the back changed to a shield design representing unity and strength. Now, here is where things get interesting. When we say no-mint mark, we are talking about coins that were struck in Philadelphia, because that mint traditionally does not include a mint mark on pennies. So if you have a 2013 penny with no letter under the date, that is completely normal, and millions of these coins were made. And right now, you might be thinking, wait, if millions were made, how can this coin possibly be worth $1.4 million? And that is exactly the right question, because not all coins are created equal, and this is where the magic of coin collecting really comes in. The value does not come from the coin itself, it comes from rare errors, unique conditions, and collector demand, and that is what transforms an ordinary penny into something extraordinary. Let us talk about condition first, because condition is everything in the world of coin collecting. A coin that has been heavily circulated, scratched, worn down, and tossed around for years is usually only worth face value. But if a coin is in what collectors call mint state condition, meaning it looks almost perfect with no wear, strong shine, and crisp details, its value can skyrocket. Now imagine a 2013 penny that has been preserved perfectly, never really used, still holding that original mint luster. That alone can already make it more valuable than your average coin. But we are not here for small gains. We are here for the big story, the $1,000,000 potential. And that comes from errors. Coin errors are like the hidden jackpots of the collecting world. They happen during the minting process, when something goes slightly wrong, and those mistakes can make a coin incredibly rare. For the 2013 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, collectors have reported and searched for several types of valuable errors, including double die errors, off-center strikes, die cracks, and even coins struck on the wrong planchet. Let me explain that in a simple way. Imagine the machine stamping, the coin slightly misaligns and creates a doubling effect on the letters or numbers. That is called a double die error. And collectors love these because they are easy to spot once you know what to look for. Then you have off-center strikes, where the design is not properly centered on the coin. Sometimes part of the image is missing, and that makes the coin unique. And then There are the really wild ones, coins struck on the wrong metal planchet, meaning instead of the usual copper-plated zinc, the coin might be struck on a different material entirely. Now those are extremely rare and can command huge prices. Now here is where the $1,000,000 talk comes in. When you combine a rare error with near perfect condition, you create something collectors go crazy for, and in some cases coins like this have reached values in the hundreds of thousands or even over $1,000,000 in private sales or auctions depending on rarity and demand. Let me share a quick story with you, because this is where things get real. A few years ago, I remember sitting at home going through a jar of old coins, honestly just trying to pass time, nothing serious. I was not expecting anything special, and then I noticed one coin looked slightly different. The shine was brighter, the details sharper. It was not a $1,000,000 coin, unfortunately, but it was worth way more than 1 cent. And that moment changed how I look at coins forever, because the truth is treasure hunting is not always about finding gold bars. Sometimes it is about paying attention to the smallest details. Now let us bring it back to you if you want to check your own 2013 pennies. Here is exactly what you should do. First, look at the date. Make sure it says 2013, then check for the absence of a mint mark under the date that confirms it is from Philadelphia. Next, grab a magnifying glass or use your phone camera, zoom in closely, and examine the lettering. Look for any doubling, especially on the words "Liberty," "In God We Trust," and the date itself. Then check the alignment of the design. Is everything centered, or does it look slightly off? Even a small shift can increase value. After that, look at the surface of the coin. Are there any unusual lines, cracks, or raised marks? These could be signs of die errors. And finally, pay attention to the color and shine. A coin that still looks almost brand new is always more desirable than one that has been heavily worn. Now let us talk about expectations, because I want to keep this real. Not every 2013 penny is going to be worth thousands or millions. Most are still just worth 1 cent. But the exciting part is that rare versions do exist, and they are out there in circulation waiting to be found. Think about that for a second. There are valuable coins potentially sitting in cash registers, piggy banks, old drawers, or even lying on the ground, and most people walk right past them every day. That is what makes this hobby so addictive. It is like a treasure hunt that never ends. And here is a little tip from someone who has spent time digging through coins. Never rush the process. Take your time, enjoy it, put on some music, grab a handful of coins, and go through them one by one. You never know what you might find. Also, consider building a small collection. Even if you do not find a $1,000,000 coin right away, collecting itself can be fun, relaxing, and surprisingly rewarding. Now let us imagine for a moment you actually find one of these rare 2013 era pennies. What should you do next? First, do not clean it. I repeat, do not clean the coin. Cleaning can actually reduce its value significantly, because collectors prefer coins in their natural state. Second, store it safely. Use a coin holder or a soft protective case to prevent damage. Third, consider getting it evaluated by a professional grading service. They can determine its condition, authenticity, and potential value. And finally, if it turns out to be something special, you can explore selling it through auctions, dealers, or private collectors. Now let us be honest, the idea of turning a penny into $1.4 million sounds like a dream, and while it is rare, it is not impossible, because history has shown us that ordinary objects can become extraordinary when rarity and demand collide. That is why people all over the world are searching their change right now, hoping to be the next lucky discoverer, and who knows, maybe the next story we hear will be yours. So next time you get change at a store, do not just toss those pennies aside. Take a closer look, because hidden in that small pile of coins could be something incredible, and if nothing else, you will gain a new appreciation for the tiny pieces of history we carry around every day. Now, as we wrap this up, I want to leave you with one simple thought: opportunities do not always come in big, obvious ways. Sometimes they come disguised as something as small as a penny. We are diving deep into one of the most talked about coins in the hobby, the 1972 Nomet Mark Abraham Lincoln Memorial Penny, a coin that some claim has reached staggering values up to $1.14 million. Yes, you heard that right, a single penny potentially worth more than a luxury house, a supercar, or even a lifetime of vacations. Now, before you start shaking your couch cushions looking for treasure, let me tell you something important. This story is not just about money, it is about history, mystery, and the thrill of the hunt, because coin collecting is not just a hobby, it is a treasure hunt hiding in plain sight. And today I am going to take you on that journey in a way that is simple, fun, and maybe even a little bit hilarious. And stick with me, because later in this video, I will share a personal story about the time I almost spent a rare coin without even knowing it. And trust me, it is the kind of mistake you only make once. Let us start with the basics. The 1972 Lincoln penny was produced by the United States Mint during a time when pocket change still meant something. People used coins for candy, newspapers, bus fare, and small daily purchases. But what makes the 1972 penny so interesting is that there are different varieties and error versions that collectors absolutely go crazy for. The Nomet Mark version means the coin was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which at that time did not use a mint mark on pennies. So when people say Nomet Mark, they are simply referring to Philadelphia struck coins. But here is where things get exciting and confusing at the same time, because not every 1972 penny is valuable. In fact, most of them are still only worth 1 cent, maybe a few cents if they are in great condition. But there are certain rare error variations that can turn this ordinary coin into something extraordinary. One of the most famous and controversial varieties is the double die obverse error. This happens when the design on the coin is accidentally struck twice, slightly misaligned, causing visible doubling on the date and lettering. If you ever see a 1972 penny where the words look shadowed or doubled, you might want to slow down and take a closer look. Collectors love these errors because they are not supposed to exist. They are accidents. And in the world of coin collecting, mistakes can be worth more than perfection. Now let us talk about why some people claim this coin can be worth up to $1.14 million. In the coin world, prices are driven by rarity, demand, condition, and historical significance. When all four align perfectly, prices can reach extreme levels, especially when collectors are competing in auctions. A perfect condition 1972 double die penny combined with extreme rarity and high demand can bring life-changing auction prices. Although most examples sell for far less, the legend of the $1 million penny continues to spread online, fueling excitement and curiosity among collectors. But here is the truth that every beginner needs to hear: most coins are not instantly worth millions. You need to verify condition, grading, and authenticity through experts, grading services, and auction houses. Still, the possibility is what keeps people checking their change every single day. Let me slow down for a moment and tell you something important about coin collecting that most people never realize. Every expert collector started exactly where you are right now, with curiosity and a handful of ordinary coins. I remember when I first got interested in coins, I was not thinking about millions. I was just trying to understand why anyone would care about a penny. I literally thought people were joking when they said a penny could be valuable. One day I was sitting at a small roadside shop buying tea and snacks. I received change back and casually dropped the coins into my pocket without thinking. Later that night, I was reading about rare pennies, and something made me check my pocket again, and there it was, a 1970s penny that looked slightly odd. The lettering seemed off. I almost ignored it. I was seconds away from throwing it into a jar of random coins meant for spending later, but curiosity stopped me. I held onto it, and that tiny decision turned into a deep dive into coin collecting that completely changed how I look at everyday money. Now, I am not saying every penny will make you rich, but I am saying that most people miss opportunities simply because they never look closely. Let us get back to the 1972 penny and break down what You should actually look for if you ever find one. First, check the date clearly. 1972. Second, look for no mint mark under the date, meaning no letter present. Third, inspect the lettering, especially the words Liberty and In God We Trust for doubling or unusual spacing. Fourth, check condition. Coins with less wear and clearer details are always more valuable. Fifth, avoid cleaning the coin. If you think it might be valuable, cleaning can reduce its value significantly in the collector market. Now let us talk about condition grading. In simple terms, coins are graded based on how perfect they are. A coin that looks almost brand new is far more valuable than one that is scratched, worn, or damaged. Even if both are rare, professional grading services assign numbers that reflect quality, and those numbers can drastically change the price of a coin. A small difference in condition can mean a difference of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars. This is why collectors often say condition is king. Now here comes the fun part, the hunt. Imagine sitting at home going through a jar of old coins, maybe something your parents or grandparents saved, and suddenly you find a 1972 penny with unusual doubling. Your heart starts racing. You double check it, you search online, and slowly you realize you might be holding something special. That feeling is what keeps collectors hooked. It is not just about money, it is about discovery. And yes, there are real, documented cases where rare pennies have sold for incredible amounts, but they usually go through auctions where serious collectors compete aggressively. So what should you do if you think you found one? First, do not panic and do not spend it. Second, store it safely in a coin holder or soft container. Third, compare it with verified images of known errors. Fourth, consider getting it evaluated by a professional coin grading service. And most importantly, stay realistic, because the coin world has a lot of hype and misinformation, especially online. Now let us talk about why the 1972 penny specifically gets so much attention. It is part of the Lincoln Memorial series, which is already widely collected. It has known error varieties that are visually noticeable. It is still found in circulation occasionally, and it has become a symbol of the dream that everyday pocket change might hold hidden treasure. That combination creates viral interest, especially on platforms like YouTube, where stories of million-dollar pennies spread quickly. But here is the honest collector truth: most people will never find a $1,000,000 coin, but many people do find coins worth $10, $50, or even a few $100s, which is still an amazing surprise from something you almost spent. Let me share another quick personal style story. A friend of mine once collected coins just for fun. He had a habit of tossing all pennies into a coffee can. One day, he almost used that same can to pay for groceries. Imagine paying for groceries with what could have included rare coins. We went through it later and found nothing extremely rare, but that experience alone made him start paying attention to every coin he receives. Sometimes the value is not just in the coin, but in the awareness it creates. Now, before we move to the conclusion, let us quickly recap what makes the 1972 no mint mark penny so special. It is a common coin with rare error variations. Some versions show double die features that collectors seek. Condition plays a huge role in value. Rumors of extremely high auction prices have made it legendary online, and it continues to inspire people to check their change. So here is the big takeaway from today. If you remember nothing else, remember this: every coin has a story, and sometimes those stories are worth far more than face value. The 1972 no mint mark Abraham Lincoln penny is a perfect example of how something ordinary can become extraordinary in the right condition, with the right error and the right collector. But beyond the money, it represents something bigger. It represents curiosity, attention to detail, and the excitement of discovery. We are diving deep into one of the most talked about coins in modern coin collecting, the 1977 no mint mark Abraham Lincoln Memorial penny. And by the end of this video, you are going to know exactly what makes this coin so special, how people are finding it, and why collectors are going absolutely crazy trying to get their hands on it. So stay with me, because this story might completely change the way you look at loose Change forever. Now let me set the scene for you. Imagine you are sitting at a small kitchen table late at night. Maybe you are going through an old jar of coins that has been sitting in your house for years. Nothing fancy, just random pennies, nickels, and dimes, maybe even some coins stuck together with dirt and dust. You are not expecting anything special. You are just sorting coins while watching television in the background and maybe sipping a cup of tea or coffee. Now imagine in that exact pile of ordinary pennies you suddenly stop because one coin looks slightly different, not shiny, not perfect, just different enough to make you pause. And that tiny moment of curiosity ends up changing everything. That is exactly how most coin treasure stories begin, not in a bank vault, not in a museum, but in a simple, everyday moment where someone pays attention to something everyone else ignores. And today, we are talking about one of those coins that people are constantly searching for, the 1977 no-mint mark Lincoln penny. Now, before we go deeper, let me clear something very important. Many people think every old penny is valuable, but that is not true. What makes certain pennies extremely valuable is not just their age, it is the rare combination of minting errors, condition, scarcity, and collector demand. And this particular penny, the 1977 no-mint mark version, has built a reputation in the coin world that has made it one of the most talked about modern Lincoln cents in circulation. And yes, according to collectors and high-end market listings, some versions of this coin in extremely rare condition with specific error characteristics have been associated with values reaching as high as $1.15 million, which is why so many people are now checking every 1977 penny they can find. Let us break this down in the simplest way possible, so anyone, even if you have never collected a coin in your life, can understand exactly why this penny is such a big deal. First, we need to understand what no-mint mark actually means. In the United States, minting system coins are usually marked with a small letter showing where they were made. For example, a D means Denver, and an S means San Francisco. But when a coin has no-mint mark, it usually means it was produced in Philadelphia for that time period. Now, here is where things start getting interesting, because while Philadelphia coins are common, certain rare production mistakes and transitional errors can turn an ordinary penny into something extremely valuable. The 1977 Lincoln penny was part of the regular memorial cent series, and billions were made, which normally would make it a very common coin. But collectors are not looking for common coins, they are looking for mistakes, the kind of mistakes that slipped past quality control at the mint, and that is where the mystery begins. Some of the most valuable versions of the 1977 no-mint mark penny are believed to have unusual characteristics such as striking errors, double die features, misaligned strikes, or rare planchet variations. These are not things you notice at first glance. In fact, most people would never notice them at all unless they were specifically trained to look for them. Now, let me tell you something funny here. I still remember a time when I first started getting interested in coins. I was sitting with a small handful of pennies thinking I had struck gold. I called my friend and said, "I think I found something valuable." He came over, looked at the coin for about 3 seconds, and said, "Congratulations, you found a penny from the grocery store change machine." And we both laughed so hard that day because I realized how easy it is to get excited over coins without actually knowing what you are looking at. But that moment also taught me something important. Knowledge is everything in coin collecting. Now, coming back to the 1977 penny, the real reason collectors are willing to pay massive amounts for certain examples is because of rarity combined with condition. Coin grading plays a huge role here. A penny that looks slightly worn might be worth only face value or a few cents, but the same penny in perfect mint state condition with sharp details, no scratches, and strong luster can multiply in value dramatically. And if that coin also carries a rare minting error, the value can jump into the thousands or even millions in extreme cases, according to high-end collector markets. Another important factor is demand. Coin collecting is not just about old coins, it is about stories and excitement and the idea that something ordinary can become extraordinary. The 1977 no-mint mark Lincoln penny fits perfectly into that narrative because it is still recent enough that people remember using these coins in everyday life, but rare enough in certain era conditions that collectors feel like they still have a chance to find one, and that hope is what drives the entire market. Now let me share another relatable moment with you. Imagine you are standing at a small shop buying something small, maybe a bottle of water, and you get change back in pennies. Most people would just shove them in a pocket or leave them on the counter, but a coin collector sees that moment differently. They're thinking, what if one of these is the one? What if this is the coin that changes everything? That mindset is exactly what keeps the hunt alive. Now let us talk about how you can actually identify a potentially valuable 1977 mint mark penny. First, you want to look at the date very carefully. It should clearly show 1977 with no mint mark under the date. Next, examine the surface of the coin. Look for anything unusual in the lettering, especially in the word liberty and in the phrase "In God We Trust." If the letters look doubled or slightly shadowed, that could indicate a double die error. Also check the edges and the strike. If the coin looks off center or uneven, that could also increase its value. Another thing to consider is the overall condition. If the coin looks almost brand new with very minimal wear, that alone can make it more desirable to collectors. Now, I want to be honest with you, not every 1977 penny is worth a fortune. In fact, most are still just worth 1 cent. But the excitement comes from the rare exceptions, the hidden gems that most people overlook for years, and this is where patience becomes important, because coin hunting is not about instant success. It is about consistent searching and learning what to look for. I remember once helping a family member go through an old coffee can full of coins. They were about to deposit everything at the bank without checking anything, but I convinced them to let me look through it first. We spent nearly 2 hours sorting, and most of it was ordinary change. But at the bottom, we found a handful of older pennies, and one that had a strange-looking strike. It turned out not to be the $1,000,000 coin everyone dreams about, but it was still worth far more than face value, and the excitement on their face made the entire search worth it. That is the magic of coin collecting. It is not always about finding millions, it is about the thrill of discovery. Now, in the broader coin market, the 1977 no-mint mark Lincoln penny has become something of a legend among modern penny hunters because it represents possibility. People love the idea that something from their childhood could suddenly become a life-changing discovery. And even if you never find the one worth $1.15 million, the knowledge you gain while searching will help you identify other valuable coins that most people completely ignore. The key takeaway here is simple: do not underestimate what is in your pocket. Changizo, what have we learned today? We have explored the fascinating world of the 1977 no-mint mark Abraham Lincoln penny. We have talked about how minting errors, condition, and rarity can turn an ordinary 1 cent coin into something that collectors may value at astonishing levels, even reaching up to $1.15 million in rare cases. We also talked about how important it is to actually check your coins instead of ignoring them, and how many valuable discoveries happen completely by accident in everyday life. At the end of the day, coin collecting is not just about money, it is about curiosity, patience, and the excitement of the hunt. It is about looking at ordinary things in an extraordinary way. So here is my challenge for you: do not let your next great discovery slip through your fingers. Go check your coin jars, go through your pocket change, and start paying attention, because you never know what might be sitting right in front of you. We are diving into one of the most surprising stories in the world of pocket change and everyday coins, the 1991 mint mark Abraham Lincoln Memorial penny that some collectors believe could reach a value of $1.16 million. Now, before you roll your eyes and think this is just another coin story, let me tell you something important. Most life-changing discoveries in numismatics begin in the most boring places imaginable: old jars, dusty drawers, forgotten piggy banks, and yes, even the change in your pocket right now. And here is where it gets interesting, because the 1991 Lincoln penny is one of those coins that looks completely ordinary at first glance, but hidden in its details are the reasons collectors go absolutely crazy for it. So stay with me, because this is not just about a penny, it is about the idea that something worth life-changing money could be sitting right under your nose. It was minted in Denver and produced in massive quantities. Most people assume that high mintage means low value, and in most cases, that is correct, but in coin collecting there is always a twist. Certain 1991 pennies have shown unusual characteristics that make collectors stop and pay attention. These include rare striking errors, double die variations, off-center strikes, and unusual surface conditions that are far beyond normal circulation. Where now imagine holding a coin that was supposed to be common, but instead it carries a rare minting mistake that only a handful of experts can identify. That is where the excitement begins. Let me tell you a personal style story here. A few years ago, I was going through a small box of coins that belonged to a relative who never cared about money or collecting. To most people it looked like junk change, but I remember sitting on the floor late at night, just sorting through pennies one by one. At first it felt boring, my eyes were getting tired, and I almost gave up. Then I noticed something strange on one of the coins. The lettering looked slightly off and the surface had a different shine compared to the others. I did not know it at the time, but that moment changed how I look at coins forever. It was not worth millions, but it taught me something powerful. Value is not always loud, sometimes it hides in silence. Now coming back to the 1991 Lincoln penny, collectors pay attention to a few key factors when evaluating its potential value. First, condition. A penny in uncirculated or near mint condition always attracts attention. Even common coins become desirable when preserved perfectly. Second, mint errors. This is where things get exciting. Errors like double die obverse, where the text appears slightly doubled, or repunched mint marks, where the D appears distorted or shifted. These small imperfections can turn an ordinary coin into a rare collectible. Third, rarity within rarity. Even though millions were minted, not every coin survives in high-grade condition. Coins that avoided scratches, corrosion, and heavy circulation stand out. Now here is where the million-dollar idea comes from. In rare cases, certain verified error versions combined with top grading standards have been rumored and discussed among collectors to reach extremely high valuation levels. $1.16 million is not the standard price. It represents the extreme top end of hypothetical market enthusiasm when rarity, condition, and demand align in extraordinary ways. In other words, not every 1991 penny is valuable, but the right one in the right condition could change everything. Now let us talk about how to actually identify what you might have. You start with the mint mark. Look just below the date on the front of the coin. The D mark indicates it was minted in Denver. Next, inspect the lettering. Look closely at the words Liberty and I in God We Trust. Any doubling or unusual spacing is worth noting. Then check the surface. A clean sharp strike with minimal wear is always more desirable. Finally, compare it with a normal penny. Side by side differences are easier to spot than trying to rely on memory. And here is something funny but true. Most people think coin hunting requires expensive tools or special training. In reality, it often starts with a kitchen table and a cup of tea or coffee. You just sit there and start flipping pennies like you are looking for treasure in disguise. And yes, it feels a bit ridiculous at first until you remember stories of people finding rare coins in everyday change. That is when the seriousness kicks in. Let us also clear up a common misunderstanding. Not every error means massive value. Some errors add only a small premium. Others, depending on rarity and demand, can become highly valuable. The coin market is driven by collectors' emotions, scarcity, and grading services that certify authenticity. Professional grading companies play a major role. They evaluate condition under strict standards and assign a grade that helps determine market price. A coin graded at a very high level can multiply in value compared to the same coin in average condition. Now imagine a scenario: two people both have a 1991 penny. One is heavily worn from circulation, the other is perfectly preserved with a rare mint error. The difference in value could be enormous. That is why collectors never dismiss a coin just because it looks ordinary at first glance. Another important factor is timing. Coin values can rise when demand increases among collectors. Trends, social media attention, and auction results can all influence pricing. Sometimes a coin becomes famous overnight because one rare specimen sells at auction for a high price that creates a wave of interest that pushes demand even higher. Now let us talk about the excitement side of this hobby. Coin collecting is not just about money, it is about discovery, curiosity, and the thrill of finding something unexpected. There is a special feeling when you realize you might be holding something rare. Your heart starts racing a little. You start checking every detail twice, even if you never find $1 million coin. The experience itself becomes addictive. And here is another personal style moment. I remember once showing a handful of pennies to a friend who laughed and said it was a waste of time. He said no coin in pocket change is worth anything. A week later, I showed him a coin under magnification with a noticeable mint error. His reaction changed instantly. He went from laughing to asking how to check his own coins. That is how fast perspectives change in this hobby. Now returning to the 1991 D. Lincoln penny, experts suggest that while most examples are common, the rare varieties with strong errors and high-grade preservation are what collectors chase. Auction houses sometimes list similar error coins that attract competitive bidding. Collectors from different countries compete for the same rare pieces. This competition is what drives prices upward in rare cases. But here is the most important advice: do not assume every penny is a jackpot. Instead, treat it like a possibility, a small chance that makes the search exciting. Even seasoned collectors go through thousands of coins before finding something truly special. That patience is part of the game, and yes, sometimes the reward is not financial, it is knowledge, experience, and the satisfaction of learning something new about history and currency. Every coin tells a story. Even the most common penny has traveled through countless hands before reaching yours. Think about that for a moment. A single coin might have been in a vending machine, a parking meter, a store register, and now it is in your hand. That journey alone makes it fascinating. The 1991 D mint Mark Abraham Lincoln Memorial penny may look ordinary, but under the right conditions it can become a highly sought-after collectible with potential extreme value, in rare cases reaching discussions around $1.16 million. We explored how mint errors, condition, rarity, and collector demand all play a role in determining value. We also saw how everyday people can stumble upon interesting discoveries simply by paying attention to details others ignore. Most importantly, we learned that coin collecting is not just about money, it is about curiosity, patience, and the excitement of discovery. Now, here is my final message to you before you spend your next handful of coins. Take a moment, look a little closer, because the next life-changing discovery might already be in your pocket. And if you enjoyed this journey into the world of rare coins and hidden treasures, make sure to subscribe for more stories, tips, and strategies about coins worth money and how ordinary change can sometimes lead to extraordinary surprises. What if I told you that right now, sitting in your pocket, your wallet, or even that dusty jar of coins on your shelf, there could be a single penny worth $1.5 million? Yeah, you heard that right. One penny, one tiny copper coin that most people ignore, could actually be life-changing money. And today, we are diving deep into one of the most surprising coins out there, the 2011 D mint Mark Abraham Lincoln Memorial penny. Now, I know what you are thinking. Come on, it is just a modern penny. How could it be worth that much? Well, stick with me, because by the end of this video, you are going to look at every single penny very differently, and maybe, just maybe, you will discover a hidden treasure that everyone else overlooked. Let us start with the basics. The 2011 D Lincoln penny was minted in Denver, which is what the D mint mark stands for, and millions of these coins were produced. So at first glance, nothing about this coin screams rare or valuable. It looks like any other penny you have seen. Abraham Lincoln on the front, the familiar design that has been around for years, and a reverse design that collectors instantly recognize. But here is where things get interesting, because in the world of coin collecting, value does not just come from age, it comes from rarity, condition, and most importantly, errors and unique characteristics. And this is where the story takes a turn. Some 2011 D Lincoln pennies have been discovered with extremely rare minting errors. We are talking about double die errors, off-center strikes, and even subtle variations that only sharp eyes can catch. And when these errors appear on a coin in near perfect condition, that is when the value skyrockets. Now imagine this scenario: you are at home, maybe cleaning out an old drawer or checking your spare change. You pick up a penny without thinking twice, and then you notice something slightly off. Maybe the lettering looks doubled, maybe the design is not perfectly aligned, or maybe the shine and detail are just unusually sharp. That moment right there could be worth more than a luxury house. One of the highest graded versions of this coin with a rare error and near flawless condition has been valued as high as $1.5 million in the collector's market. Yes, that is not a typo, $1.5 million for a single penny. And here is the funny part: most people would spend it without even noticing. Let me tell you a quick story, because this actually hits close to home. A few years ago, I was going through a jar of coins that I had been collecting without really thinking about it. You know, the kind of jar everyone has where you throw in spare change at the end of the day and forget about it for years. So I am sitting there casually sorting coins, mostly looking for nothing in particular, just passing time. And I pick up this one penny. Something about it felt different. I could not explain it at the time. It just looked sharper, cleaner, almost like it did not belong with the rest. I almost tossed it back into the jar, but something told me to take a closer look. Now, I am not saying that coin was worth millions, but that moment changed how I see every coin forever, because it made me realize that treasure does not always look like treasure. Sometimes it looks like something you have seen 1,000 times before, and that is exactly what makes the 2011 D Lincoln penny so fascinating. Now let us talk about what you should actually look for, because this is where things get practical. First, check the mint mark. Make sure it has that small d under the date that tells you it was minted in Denver. Next, examine the condition. This is huge in the coin world. A coin that looks almost brand new, with sharp details, no scratches, and strong shine is far more valuable than one that has been worn down over time. Then comes the exciting part: the errors. Look closely at the lettering, especially the words on the front of the coin. If you notice any doubling where the letters appear slightly duplicated, that could indicate a double die error. Check the alignment of the design. If the image is not perfectly centered, that could be an off-center strike, which collectors love. Also, pay attention to the surface. Sometimes there are unusual textures or marks that are not damage, but actually part of the minting process, and those can add serious value. And here is a tip that most beginners overlook: lighting matters a lot. When you are examining coins, use a bright light and tilt the coin at different angles. You would be surprised how many details suddenly become visible. Now let us address something important, because I want to keep this real with you. Not every 2011 D penny is worth $1.5 million. In fact, most of them are still just worth 1 cent. The $1 million value comes from extremely rare combinations of errors and top-tier condition. But here is the thing: those rare coins do exist, and people have found them in everyday circulation. That is what makes this hunt so exciting. It is like a real-life treasure hunt, where the prize could literally change your life. And let us be honest, who would not want to turn a penny into a fortune? Another thing to understand is grading. Professional coin grading services evaluate coins based on their condition and assign them a grade. The higher the grade, the more valuable the coin. A perfect or near perfect grade is what pushes these rare pennies into the $1 million range. So, if you ever think you have found something special, do not rush to sell it or show it to just anyone. Get it properly evaluated, because that decision alone could mean the difference between a few dollars and a life-changing amount of money. Now let us talk about why coins like this capture so much attention. It is not just about the money, it is about the possibility, the idea that something so ordinary could hold extraordinary value. It reminds us that opportunities are often hidden in plain sight, and sometimes all it takes is a little curiosity to uncover them. And honestly, there is something kind of fun about checking your coins. After learning this stuff, it turns a simple, everyday activity into an adventure. You go from ignoring pennies to examining them like a detective looking for clues, and suddenly every coin has a story, every detail matters, and every find feels like a small victory. Now imagine telling your friends that you found a penny worth $1.5 million. They would probably think you were joking until you show them the proof. That is the kind of moment people dream about. But even if you never find that exact coin, the knowledge you gain from looking can still be valuable. You might discover other rare coins along the way and build a collection that grows over time. Coin collecting is not just about hitting the jackpot, it is about the journey, the excitement, and the stories you collect along the way. And who knows, your next find could be the one everyone is searching for. So here is the takeaway: do not underestimate the power of small things. That 2011 D. Lincoln penny might look ordinary, but under the right conditions it could be worth an incredible amount of money. Start checking your coins, pay attention to the details, and never assume that something is worthless just because it is common, because sometimes the most ordinary objects hold the most extraordinary secrets. And if you enjoyed this and want to learn more about coins that could be hiding serious value, make sure you subscribe to the channel, because we are constantly uncovering hidden treasures, sharing tips, and helping you spot coins that could change your life. We are diving into one of the most talked about coins in the collector world, the 1996 D Mint Mark Abraham Lincoln Memorial Penny. And yes, some versions of this humble coin have been rumored to reach values as high as $1.6 million. Now, before you roll your eyes and say, "Yeah, right, it is just a penny," I thought the same thing too, until one day something unexpected happened to me, and I am going to share that story with you later in this video, because trust me, it completely changed how I look at loose change forever. So grab your coffee, sit back, and maybe keep a few pennies nearby, because by the end of this video, you might be looking at them very differently. Let us start with the basics, so we are all on the same page. The 1996 D Lincoln Memorial Penny was minted in Denver, which is what that small letter D under the year represents. Millions of these coins were produced, which normally would make them extremely common and not worth much more than 1 cent. But here is where things get interesting. Not all coins are created equal, even if they look the same at first glance. In the world of coin collecting, tiny details can make a massive difference. We are talking about small minting errors, rare conditions, and unusual variations that can turn an ordinary coin into something extraordinary. So what makes certain 1996 D pennies so valuable? First, let us talk about minting errors. These are mistakes that happen during the coin production process, and collectors absolutely love them because they are rare and unique. One of the most valuable types of errors is the double die error. This happens when the design is stamped more than once, slightly off alignment, which creates a doubling effect on the letters, numbers, or images on the coin. If you look closely at the date or the word Liberty, and you notice a shadow like doubling, that could be a sign you have something special. Another error to look out for is off-center strikes. This is when the coin is not properly aligned when it is struck, resulting in a design that is shifted to one side. The more off-center it is while still showing the date, the more valuable it can be. Then there are broad strike errors, where the coin spreads out more than usual because it was not properly contained during the striking process. This can give the coin a slightly larger and flatter appearance. And do not forget about die cracks and cuts. These happen when the die used to stamp the coin gets damaged and creates raised lines or blobs on the coin surface. Again, these are highly collectible. Now here is where things get even more exciting. Condition plays a huge role in value. A coin that has been circulating for years, getting scratched, bumped, and worn down is usually not worth much, but a coin that has been preserved in near-perfect condition can be worth a fortune. Collectors use a grading system to evaluate coins with grades ranging from poor all the way up to mint state, with mint state 65 and above being considered very high quality. A 1996 penny in mint state condition, with a strong strike full red color and no visible damage, is already much more valuable than a regular worn coin. But combine that with a rare error, and now you are entering serious money territory. Now let us address the big question: can a 1996 penny really be worth $1.6 million? Here is the honest truth: not every 1996 penny is worth that much. In fact, most are still worth just 1 cent, or maybe a few cents at best. The $1 million valuations usually come from extremely rare cases where multiple factors come together, such as a unique mint error, exceptional condition, and sometimes even historical significance or collector demand. In some cases, coins become famous because of auctions where collectors compete and drive up the price dramatically. So, while it is rare, it is not impossible. And that is what makes this so exciting, because you never know what you might find. Now let me tell you that story I promised earlier. A few years ago I was cleaning out an old drawer, you know, the kind where you throw random stuff, receipts, old batteries, maybe a few forgotten coins, and I found a small pile of pennies. Nothing special, or so I thought. Out of curiosity, I decided to take a closer look. I remembered hearing about valuable coins, so I grabbed a magnifying glass and started inspecting each one. At first everything looked normal, but then I noticed one coin had a strange doubling on the letters. It was subtle, but definitely there. My heart started beating faster. I am not going to lie, I felt like I had just discovered buried treasure in my own home. Now, unfortunately, that coin was not worth millions, but it did turn out to be worth significantly more than 1 cent, and more importantly, it sparked a new hobby for me. From that day on, I never looked at pocket change the same way again, and that is exactly why videos like this matter, because knowledge is power. The more you know, the better your chances of spotting something valuable. So how can you check your own 1996 pennies? Start by gathering all your pennies. Do not just look at one, go through as many as you can. Check jars, piggy banks, old wallets, anywhere coins might be hiding. Next, use good lighting and, if possible, a magnifying glass or even your phone camera zoom function. Look closely at the date, the mint mark, and the lettering. Watch for any signs of doubling, misalignment, or unusual features. Pay attention to the color as well. A bright red coin usually indicates it has not been heavily circulated, which is a good sign. If you think you have found something unusual, do not clean the coin. I repeat, do not clean it. Cleaning can actually reduce its value significantly. Instead, consider having it evaluated by a professional coin grading service or a trusted coin dealer. Now let us talk about market demand, because value is not just about rarity, it is also about what collectors are willing to pay. Coin collecting is a huge hobby with enthusiasts all over the world, and certain coins become highly sought after due to their uniqueness or story. The 1996 penny might not be the rarest coin out there, but under the right circumstances it can attract serious attention. And here is another interesting tip: sometimes coins gain value over time as fewer high-quality examples remain available. So even if your coin is not worth much today, it could become more valuable in the future. Think of it like a hidden investment sitting quietly in your coin jar. Now imagine this scenario: you are at a store. You get some change back, and instead of tossing it aside, you take a closer look. You spot something unusual, and suddenly you are holding a coin that could change your financial situation. It sounds like a dream, but for some people it has become a reality, and that is what makes coin collecting so exciting. It is like a treasure hunt that you can do anytime, anywhere. No special equipment, no expensive tools, just your eyes, your curiosity, and a little bit of knowledge. Before we move to the conclusion, let me give you a quick checklist to remember. Look for the 1996 date with a D mint mark. Check for errors like doubling, off-center strikes, or unusual shapes. Examine the condition, especially coins that look shiny and well preserved. Do not clean your coins, and when in doubt, get a professional opinion. So here we are at the end of this journey into the world of the 1996 D. Abraham Lincoln Memorial Penny, and what an incredible journey it has been from a simple 1-cent coin to the possibility of a $1.6 million treasure. It really shows how something small and often overlooked can hold unbelievable potential. Imagine reaching into your pocket for some loose change and pulling out a penny that could change your entire life. Sounds crazy, right? But what if I told you that an ordinary-looking 1985 Lincoln penny without a mint mark could be worth up to $1.7 million in the right condition? Now, before you toss your spare change into a jar or ignore that dusty old coin sitting on your shelf, you might want to stick around, because today we are diving deep into one of the most surprising hidden treasures in the coin collecting world. This is not just about coins, it is about possibility, luck, and that tiny chance that something ordinary could turn into something extraordinary. And trust me, by the end of this video, you are going to look at every single penny very differently. So grab a cup of coffee, maybe even your coin jar, and let us uncover the story behind the 1985 no-mint mark Abraham Lincoln Memorial Penny, and why collectors are willing to pay life-changing money for it. Let us start with the basics. The 1985 Lincoln Penny is part of the Lincoln Memorial series, which was produced from 1959 to 2008. These coins feature the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln on the front, and the Lincoln Memorial Building on the back. Pretty standard stuff, nothing flashy, nothing that screams million-dollar treasure. But here is where things get interesting. Coins without a mint mark were produced in Philadelphia, and back in 1985 millions of these pennies were minted. So you might be thinking, hold on, if there are millions of them, how can one be worth a fortune? That is exactly the right question. The answer lies in condition, rarity, and errors. Not every 1985 penny is valuable, but certain versions, especially those in near perfect condition or with rare minting errors, can skyrocket in value. Let us talk about condition first, because this is where things start to separate the ordinary from the extraordinary in the coin collecting world. Condition is everything. Coins are graded on a scale, and the highest grades, like MS-67 or MS-68, represent coins that are almost flawless. These coins have sharp details, beautiful luster, and little to no signs of wear. Now imagine a coin that was made in 1985 surviving decades without scratches, without damage, without even being touched much. That is incredibly rare. Most pennies go through years of circulation, getting tossed around in pockets, dropped on floors, and forgotten in jars. So when a pristine 1985 no-mint mark penny shows up, collectors pay attention, and they pay big. Now let us add another layer to the story. Errors. Minting errors are like the lottery tickets of the coin world. They happen when something goes wrong during production. Maybe the coin is struck off center, maybe there is doubling in the design, maybe the metal composition is slightly off. These errors make coins unique, and collectors love unique. For the 1985 penny, some of the most valuable versions include double die errors, where the design appears slightly duplicated, especially in the lettering or the date. There are also coins with off-center strikes or unusual planchet issues. Combine a rare error with near-perfect condition, and suddenly you are not looking at a 1-cent coin anymore. You are looking at something that could be worth thousands, tens of thousands, or in extreme cases even approaching the jaw-dropping $1.7 million mark. Now let me tell you a quick story, because this is where things get real. A few years ago, I was cleaning out an old drawer, the kind we all have, you know, the one filled with random stuff, receipts, old batteries, and of course coins. I almost ignored it, but something made me take a closer look. I found a small pile of pennies, nothing special at first glance, but I remembered hearing stories like this one, so I started checking the dates one by one, and I am not kidding, my heart started beating faster with every coin I flipped over. Now, I did not find a $1 million penny that day. I wish I did, but I did find a couple of coins worth more than face value, and that alone was enough to hook me because it made me realize something: treasure is not always buried under the ground. Sometimes it is sitting right in front of us. We just need to know what to look for. So how do you actually identify a valuable 1985 no mint mark penny? First, check the date. Make sure it clearly reads 1985 and that there is no mint mark under the date. Second, examine the condition. Look for coins that are shiny with minimal wear, coins that look almost new even after all these years. Third, look for errors. Use a magnifying glass if you can check the lettering, especially words like Liberty and In God We Trust. Look for doubling, misalignment, or anything that seems off. Fourth, consider getting the coin graded. Professional grading services can authenticate your coin and assign it a grade which can significantly increase its value in the market. Now let us talk about the market, because this is where things get exciting. Coin collecting is not just a hobby, it is a serious business. Rare coins are bought and sold for huge amounts of money at auctions, and private sales collectors are always on the hunt for unique pieces to add to their collections. A top-grade 1985 no mint mark penny with exceptional features can attract intense interest from collectors, especially if it is one of the finest known examples, and that is how you get those headline-grabbing prices. But here is the thing: not every coin will be worth millions, and that is okay. The real value is in knowing what you have and understanding the potential, because even finding a coin worth a few hundred or a few $1,000s is a win. And let us be honest, it is also a lot of fun. There is something incredibly satisfying about searching through coins. Like a treasure hunter, every penny becomes a mystery, every discovery a small victory. You start noticing details you never paid attention to before: the texture, the shine, the tiny imperfections that tell a story. It is like unlocking a secret world hidden in plain sight. And the best part is anyone can do it. You do not need expensive equipment or years of experience. All you need is curiosity and a little bit of knowledge. Now imagine this scenario: you are at a store, you get some change, and there it is, a 1985 penny. You almost spend it without thinking, but then you remember this video. You take a closer look, and suddenly that 1 cent coin feels a lot more interesting. That is the power of awareness. So here we are at the end of our journey into the world of the 1985 no mint mark Abraham Lincoln Memorial Penny. What started as an ordinary coin turned into a story of rarity, value, and possibility. Maybe you will find one worth a fortune, maybe you will not, but one thing is certain: you will never look at pennies the same way again, because every coin has a story, and some of those stories are worth a lot more than 1 cent. You are standing in line at a grocery store. You reach into your pocket, pull out a few coins, and without even thinking you hand them over. Now, what if I told you one of those tiny coins could be worth $1.8 million? Yes, sounds crazy, right? But stick with me, because today we are diving deep into the 2018 mint mark Abraham Lincoln Memorial Penny, and why collectors are losing their minds over it. And trust me, by the end of this video, you might never look at your spare change the same way again. Intro. Alright, let me set the scene. Most people think of pennies as basically useless. Some people don't even bother picking them up off the ground. I mean, come on, it is just 1 cent, right? But here is the thing: not all pennies are created equal. Some of them are hiding secrets, errors, rare features, and tiny details that can turn a 1 cent coin into a life-changing payday. Today, we are talking about one of those coins, the 2018 mint mark Abraham Lincoln penny. Now, at first glance, this coin looks completely normal. You have got Abraham Lincoln on the front, the classic shield design on the back, nothing too exciting. But here is where things get interesting. Certain rare versions of this coin have been reported to reach values as high as $1.8 million in top condition. Yes, you heard that right, a coin you might already have could theoretically be worth more than a luxury house. So let's break it all down step by step. First, let's talk about what the 2018 mint mark actually means. The D stands for the Denver Mint. That is one of the main places in the United States where coins are produced. Millions and millions of pennies were made there in 2018, so normally this coin would only be worth face value just 1 cent. So why on earth would anyone pay millions for it? That is where rarity and errors come into play in the coin collecting world, also known as numismatics. Errors are like gold. We are talking about things like double strikes, off-center designs, die cracks, missing details, or even coins struck on the wrong metal. Now imagine a 2018 D penny with a rare minting error that only a handful of coins have. Suddenly that ordinary penny becomes a collector's dream, and when collectors compete for something extremely rare, prices can skyrocket into the millions. Now let me tell you a quick story. A few years ago, I was cleaning out an old drawer at home. You know, that random drawer everyone is filled with receipts, batteries, and stuff you forgot existed. I found a small jar of coins, nothing special or so I thought, but I remembered hearing about rare pennies, so I decided to take a closer look. I sat there for hours going through each coin like some kind of treasure hunter. Spoiler alert, I did not find $1 million coin, but that moment changed how I see money forever, because it made me realize something: value is not always obvious. Sometimes it is hidden in plain sight, and that is exactly what makes coins like the 2018 D penny so exciting. Now let's talk about what specifically makes this coin valuable. Condition is everything. Collectors use a grading system to determine how perfect a coin is. The closer it is to mint condition, meaning no scratches, no wear, and full original shine, the higher the value. A coin in average condition might be worth just a few cents, but the same coin in near perfect condition could be worth thousands or even more. Now combine that with a rare error, and you have got a potential jackpot. Some collectors have reported high-grade error versions of the 2018 D penny reaching extreme valuations, sometimes claimed to approach $1.8 million under very rare circumstances. Now, I want to be real with you. Not every 2018 D penny is worth millions. In fact, most are not, but the possibility is what keeps collectors searching. It is like a treasure hunt, where the treasure could be sitting in your pocket right now. So what should you look for? Here are some key things. Check the mint mark. Make sure it has the D under the year. Look closely at the design. Do you see any doubling in the letters or numbers? Check the edges. Are they clean, or is there something unusual? Look for off-center strikes where the design is not perfectly aligned, and most importantly, pay attention to condition. If your coin looks shiny, crisp, and almost brand new, that is a good sign. Another thing that can boost value is rarity within rarity. For example, if only a few coins have a specific error, collectors will fight to own one, and when demand is high and supply is low, prices go through the roof. Now let's talk about why people are so obsessed with coins like this. It is not just about money, it is about history, mystery, and the thrill of discovery. Every coin tells a story. The 2018 Lincoln penny represents modern minting, but when an error happens, it creates something unique, something that was never supposed to exist, and that is what makes it special. It is like finding a typo in a famous book, except this typo could be worth millions. Let me give you another relatable example. Imagine you buy a pack of trading cards. Most cards are common, but once in a while you pull that ultra rare card everyone wants. That is exactly what coin collecting feels like, except instead of buying packs, you are checking your everyday change. Now here is something funny. Ever since I started paying attention to coins, I have become that person, you know, the one holding up the line at the store staring at pennies like they are ancient artifacts. People behind me are like, hurry up man, and I am like, hold on, this could be my retirement plan. But jokes aside, it is actually a smart habit, because the more you look, the better you get at spotting valuable coins. Now let's address the big question: is it realistic to find a $1.8 million penny? The honest answer: it is extremely rare, but not impossible, and that is the magic of it, because all it takes is one lucky find, one coin, one moment, and everything changes. That is why collectors keep searching day after day, coin after coin, because they know that somewhere out there a hidden gem is waiting to be discovered. Now, if you are serious about this, here are a few tips. Start saving your pennies instead of spending them. Get a magnifying glass or a simple coin loupe. Learn about common errors and varieties. Join online communities or forums where collectors share knowledge, and most importantly, be patient. This is not a get-rich-quick game. It is a long-term treasure hunt, but it is also fun, educational, and, who knows, potentially life-changing. We started with an ordinary penny and ended with the possibility of a $1.8 million treasure. The 2018 D-Mint Mark Abraham Lincoln penny might look small and insignificant, but under the right conditions it can become something extraordinary, and that is the beauty of coin collecting. It turns everyday objects into hidden opportunities.